The house in the wilderness. Deep in the forest, where no streetlights reached and no stray traveler ever set foot, stood an old abandoned house. It was hidden among the trees, and only those who knew the way could find it. But no one wanted to. They said that a family once lived there, a husband, a wife, and their little daughter. They led a secluded life, rarely speaking to anyone. But one day, their house burned to the ground. The firefighters found the parents' bodies, but the girl's body was never discovered. People whispered that she had vanished into the night, or had never left at all. Years passed. The house was forgotten. But one day, a group of young people went on a hike and accidentally stumbled upon its ruins. Among the overgrown bushes, they saw charred walls, blackened beams, and an old door leading to the basement. Should we go in? One of them, Dima, suggested. The others hesitated, but curiosity won. As they descended into the basement, they saw a doll lying on the floor. It was dusty, with burned-out hair and dark hollows instead of eyes. "This is creepy," Lena muttered, but Dima picked up the doll. At that moment, something rustled in the corner. They turned and saw a silhouette, a little girl in an old dress standing in the darkness. "You came back." Her voice was quiet, but there was an icy emptiness in it. The friends rushed to the exit, but the door slammed shut on its own. The air filled with the smell of smoke, and the basement walls began to blacken as if catching fire. The girl took a step forward, her features distorting. Her eyes turned into empty voids, and her mouth stretched into a silent scream. They screamed.
Dark windows. Artyom had long dreamed of silence. The hustle and bustle of the city exhausted him, so when he found an online listing for an old house in the wilderness, it seemed like the perfect choice. Cheap, spacious, surrounded by a dense forest. When he arrived, he immediately felt uneasy. The trees around looked too dry, as if scorched. The house stood there, dark and weathered, but inside everything seemed fine. Furniture, a fireplace, even an old gramophone. The first night, he slept peacefully. But on the second night, a tapping sound woke him up. It was faint, as if fingers were sliding across the window glass. He looked outside, but there was only darkness. On the third night, the tapping returned, louder, more insistent. This time, it came from multiple windows at once. Artyom grabbed his flashlight and stepped onto the porch. The forest was eerily still, the air heavy, like before a storm. He decided to check the windows. As he approached the nearest one, he saw his reflection. But something was wrong. The figure in the glass wasn't quite him. It looked like him, but with hollow black eyes and a distorted grin. Artyom stumbled back. At that moment, a creak sounded behind him. He spun around. The front door was wide open. He rushed inside, slammed the door shut, and turned on every light in the house. But something felt off. The furniture had moved. A dusty doll lay on the floor, one that hadn't been there before. Then the lights flickered and went out. The last thing he saw were the windows, now filled with movement. In each of them stood shadows, his own reflections, but faceless, and they were stepping inside. The next morning, a neighbor who lived miles away came to check on the new tenant. But the house was empty. Only on the fogged-up window remained the imprint of a hand, with fingerprints that seemed to sink inward.